Imagine you just paid $1.2 million for a penthouse in the clouds, floor-to-ceiling glass, a view embracing the most photographed skyline in human history. You sign the paperwork, wire enormous sums of money, and fly to Dubai with the kind of anticipation that only a purchase of that magnitude can produce. But when you arrive, the building is completely empty. Not just your floor, not just your block. An entire street of 80-story towers piercing the desert sky sits in silence. Darkened windows, empty lobbies, not a single resident in sight. You walk across the marble of the ground floor reception that was polished to a mirror finish for a reveal day that never quite happened. You take the elevator to your floor. You open the door. The apartment is perfect and completely, absolutely alone. How did one of the most expensive real estate markets on the planet turn into something so eerily ghost-like? How could a city built on towering ambition, oil money, and extreme boldness begin to fracture so quietly that most of the world hasn't even noticed? And here's the question that should keep any clear-headed investor awake tonight. Is this just Dubai's problem? Or is it the opening shot of something far more terrifying on a global scale? To understand where Dubai is now, you have to understand what it was built on and what it was built around. Rewind to the early 1900s, and Dubai was essentially nothing more than coral reefs and pearl diving fishermen. When Japan's cultured pearl technology collapsed the Gulf's pearl industry in the 1930s, Dubai's leadership didn't wait to die out. They removed tariffs and turned a small fishing village into a transshipment hub. When oil was discovered in 1966, while wealthy neighbors in Abu Dhabi were buying gold-plated Cadillacs, Dubai took a different path. They seemed to understand that their oil reserves were a drop in the ocean, so they used them as seed capital to build massive ports, laying the infrastructure for something entirely different. The philosophy was strangely simple: build the craziest, tallest, most luxurious things imaginable, and the world will come on its own. Between 2006 and 2010, an estimated 25% of all construction cranes on Earth were operating in Dubai. A single strip of desert, a quarter of the planet's cranes. The result was the Burj Khalifa at 2,717 feet, Palm Jumeirah visible from space, a mall large enough to draw more annual visitors than the entire country of France. Everything had to be the biggest. But someone forgot the old principle: the higher you go, the stronger the wind. The tax structure completed the foundation: zero personal income tax, zero corporate income tax until recently. More than 45 free economic zones where foreigners could own 100% of their businesses. For investors exhausted by the Internal Revenue Service, this sounded like the promised land. Then came the 2002 Freehold Law, a starting gun that sent millions of global investors rushing in like moths to a flame. People were no longer buying homes to live in, they were buying a dream. Off-plan apartments, units that existed only in glossy 3D renderings, were flipped through 4 or 5 owners before the first brick was laid. It was a game where whoever held the bomb last would take the hit. Now look at what is happening on the ground. In 2023 alone, more than 40,000 apartments were delivered to the Dubai market. Projections for 2024 exceeded 50,000 units. In JVC, once promoted as a paradise for families, occupancy rates in certain newly completed buildings were stuck at 15 to 20%. Apartments announced as 100% sold while still on blueprints now sit silent behind locked doors. In Business Bay, dubbed the Manhattan of the Middle East, vacancy rates have at times reached 40%. As multinationals like Microsoft and Amazon downsized office space and shifted toward remote work, those lavish mixed-use towers suddenly felt excessively large and irrationally expensive. The answer to why this is happening lies in a concept called hollow units. Most buyers are not local residents looking for homes. They are investors from all over the world who may have never set foot in this desert. They buy to speculate, to wait for price appreciation, or simply to park assets discreetly. Many leave units vacant for years to preserve brand new condition for flipping later. To them, a home is not a place to live. It is a ticker symbol on a concrete stock exchange. The building exists. The ownership is real, but the life that was supposed to fill it never arrived, and nobody in the marketing department ever had to account for that detail. Dubai depends on expatriates for approximately 89% of its population. But as the cost of living rises and global layoffs sweep across industries, large numbers of tenants have quietly packed up and left. Expat workers who once filled entire floors have been replaced by a disconcerting silence. And while developers keep building, the working-class residents who actually keep this city running have been priced out entirely. Projects deep inland where schools and hospitals still exist, only as promises on paper are turning into empty concrete monuments. Build it and they will come has slowly become build it and leave it there. Then came the money problems. And these are structural, not cyclical. There was a time when walking along Palm Jumeirah, you would hear more Russian than Arabic. Between 2022 and 2023, capital inflows from Russia were estimated at $6.3 billion. Dubai had positioned itself as a neutral haven, quietly absorbing capital from sanctioned economies while maintaining relationships with the West. That balancing act is now over. Under pressure from secondary sanctions imposed by the U.S. Treasury's Office of Foreign Assets Control and the European Union, banks in the UAE can no longer look the other way on Russian money flows. Transfers have become so difficult that even billionaires are frustrated. The result is a wave of fire sales of luxury assets on Palm Jumeirah. When holdings risk being frozen, lavish penthouses transform from symbols of status into a burden nobody wants to carry. It is not just Russians. Investors from India, who account for around 14% of Dubai transactions, are beginning to look elsewhere. Instead of pouring capital into new projects in Business Bay, money is showing signs of flowing toward more stable and transparent markets like London and Singapore. As the rupee weakens, maintaining debt denominated in dirhams pegged to the US dollar becomes unreasonably expensive. For investors who once prized Dubai for its anonymity, the OECD's automatic exchange of information framework, now fully operational, has changed the calculation entirely. Details about the beneficial owners of properties can be sent directly to tax authorities in their home countries. The appeal of a tax haven is being stripped away layer by layer. Every regulation added in the name of compliance is another reason for speculative capital to reconsider its presence. The cash flow that once acted as Dubai's perpetual engine has clogged, leaving unfinished projects starved of capital and developers offering payment plans that would have seemed unthinkable 5 years ago. Even giants like Emaar and Damac have started offering terms lasting 5 to 8 years after handover. When the developers who built this city's mythology begin compromising on their own terms, it is usually a sign that the game has fundamentally changed. The environmental math is equally unforgiving and one of the most under-discussed structural risks in the entire Dubai story. Dubai has no natural freshwater sources. More than 90% of its domestic water supply comes from massive desalination plants running continuously on natural gas. Discharging concentrated brine back into the Gulf is making the seawater increasingly saline, raising the cost of every future desalination cycle in a feedback loop with no natural resolution. When summer temperatures exceed 50 degrees Celsius, the energy cost of air conditioning an entire city of glass towers becomes a financial burden that property managers struggle to quantify. Service charges are skyrocketing just to keep facades from being consumed by sand, salt, and extreme heat. For end users, owning a Dubai property is increasingly feeling like owning an aging luxury car. Maintenance costs can sometimes exceed the rational value of the asset itself. Major pension funds from North America and Europe, managing trillions of dollars, are now enforcing strict ESG standards and refusing to back projects with among the highest carbon footprints on Earth. As these funds quietly withdraw, Dubai finds itself relying on short-term, speculative capital, the kind that arrives fast and leaves even faster. Projects that fail to meet green standards are gradually transforming into luxurious but functionally useless white elephants that no serious long-term capital wants to touch. And then there is the tax promise, perhaps the sweetest lie ever told about Dubai. In 2023, a 9% corporate income tax was introduced for the first time in the Emirates' modern history. While 9% sounds modest against American or European rates, it shattered the foundational illusion of a completely tax-free paradise. And once that Pandora's box is open, institutional investors have every reason to wonder whether the OECD's 15% global minimum standard is only a matter of time. Net real estate yields, already eroded by operating costs and service charges, now carry an additional structural burden that did not exist 3 years ago. There is also a geopolitical impossibility baked into Dubai's core position. The UAE has long balanced trade relationships with Iran alongside hosting the critical US airbase at Al Dhafra. In an increasingly polarized world, that neutrality is no longer a free lunch. Dubai is caught between vulnerability to Western financial sanctions and physical proximity to regional military activity. Neutrality was once a weapon to attract capital from every direction. It is now at risk of becoming a liability that satisfies nobody and exposes everything. Dubai is not a unique case. That is perhaps the most important thing to understand about what is happening here. It acts as a haunting mirror. Any city in the world that builds prosperity on inflated asset values instead of real production, on speculative capital instead of sustainable wealth, on illusion instead of fundamentals, is looking at Dubai with an unease that is difficult to name but impossible to ignore. The ghost towers are not a Dubai story. They are a warning about what happens when the math of a city is built on assumptions that capital keeps flowing, that occupancy keeps rising, that the promise of safety never needs to be tested. Dubai may not disappear. Cities built at this scale rarely do. But its status as a guaranteed safe haven, the foundational premise behind every premium attached to every square foot of its skyline, has been shaken in ways that a press release cannot repair and a renovation cannot conceal. The question is not whether this can be fixed. The question is whether anyone who bought into the dream at its peak will be whole again by the time the fix arrives. Leave your answer in the comments.